Packet boat.
Packet boat.
Packet switching.
Packet switching.
Pack horse.
Pack horse.
Pack ice.
Pack ice. Packing. Packing.
I can do my packing the night before we leave.
Use plenty of packing.
Packing case.
Packing case.
Pack rat.
Pack rat.
Pack trip.
Pack trip.
Pact.
Pact.
The Warsaw Pact.
The two countries signed a non-aggression pact.
A defence pact with the USA.
A peace pact between the rebels and the government.
Pad.
Pad.
Press on the wound with a large pad of cotton wool.
Use an abrasive pad for stubborn stains.
A box of paint and a sketch pad. Keep a telephone pad and a pen to hand.
A pad of paper.
The hospital has built a helicopter pad.
The cat came padding silently back to its home.
She padded barefoot down the stairs. She padded barefoot down the stairs.
Jackets padded out with a soft cotton filling. Padding the bills of Medicare patients.
Don't pad out your answer to make it seem impressive.
His autobiography is padded with boring anecdotes.
Padded.
Padded.
The shoes are padded to protect the foot. A padded headrest.
Padded cell.
Padded cell.
Padding. Padding.
A helmet with protective padding.
Paddle. Paddle.
If it's not too cold, we can go for a paddle.
A ping-pong paddle.
I desperately tried to paddle for the shore.
She and her husband paddled a canoe down the Mississippi.
Children paddling in the sea.
The dog was paddling furiously after the ducks.
Paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding.
Paddle steamer.
Paddle steamer.
Paddling pool.
Paddling pool.
Paddock.
Paddock.
Paddy.
Paddy. The news put Mum in a bit of a paddy.
Paddy wagon.
Paddy wagon.
Padlock.
Padlock.
He undid the padlock and eased back the lid. He undid the padlock and eased back the lid.
Padre.
Padre.
Peon.
Peon.
Pederast. Pederast.
Pediatrician. Pediatrician. Pediatrics. Pediatrics.
A pediatric hospital.
Pedophile. Pedophile. Paella.
Paella.
Pagan.
Pagan.
Ancient pagan temples.
Page. Page. The full address is given on page 15. The full address is given on page 15. You will find the answers over the page.
A 400-page novel.
We took out a full-page advertisement in the Village Voice. We took out a full-page advertisement in the Village Voice.
A web page. We need to get environmentalists and businesses on the same page to improve things.
She hurried to the reception desk and asked the girl to page her husband.
He was constantly being paged during meetings. He was constantly being paged during meetings. The paging network.
It's not there, so page down and see if you can find it.
Pageant.
Pageant.
A colourful pageant of Scotland's past.
The pageant of African history.
Pageantry.
Pageantry.
The pageantry of a military ceremony.
Page boy.
Page boy.
Page jack. Page jack.
Pager.
Pager.
Page traffic.
Page traffic.
Pagination.
Pagination.
Pagoda.
Pagoda.
Pa.
Pa.
Paid.
Paid.
Paid up.
Paid up.
A fully paid up member of the celebrity circuit.
The competition is open to all paid-up members of the Women's Institute. The competition is open to all paid-up members of the Women's Institute. Pail.
Pail.
A milk pail. Pail of water.
Pain.
Pain.
The pain is getting worse. She felt a sharp pain in her leg.
Greg was in a lot of pain. The pain and grief of bereavement.
She hated to say the words for fear of causing pain.
There were times when Joe could be a real pain in the neck. It's a pain having to go upstairs to make the coffee every time. He's taken great pains to improve his image.
Roy was at pains to point out that English was the only exam he'd ever failed. Roy was at pains to point out that English was the only exam he'd ever failed.
I fetched the file, and all I got for my pains was a dirty look from Simon. I fetched the file, and all I got for my pains was a dirty look from Simon.
Communist activity was prohibited on pain of death. Communist activity was prohibited on pain of death.
Pain.
Pain barrier.
Pain barrier.
Iona reached the final, but she had to go through the pain barrier to get there.
Pained.
Pained.
He sat stiffly, with a pained expression on his face.
Painful.
Painful.
Stiff, painful joints. Is your arm very painful?
The neck becomes swollen and painful to the touch.
He sobbed as he recalled the painful memory.
Venice was a painful reminder of her marriage.
He and his wife took the painful decision to switch off their son's life support machine. He and his wife took the painful decision to switch off their son's life support machine.
The long and painful process of growing up. The long and painful process of growing up.
It can be painful to leave the house in which you were born.
The divorce was painful for both of us.
Even hearing his name was painful to her.
A painful blow on the head.
An excruciatingly painful death.
He was finding it painful to breathe.
It's painful to watch her making the best of a terrible script. It's painful to watch her making the best of a terrible script.
Painfully.
Painfully.
Painfully thin arms.
As a teenager, I was painfully shy.
The road to peace is a painfully slow process. We are only too painfully aware of the damage his actions have caused.
It was painfully obvious he'd rather not see her again.
Robin swallowed painfully.
All the knowledge that he had so painfully acquired.
Painkiller.
Painkiller.
An overdose of painkillers.
Painkilling.
Painkilling.
Pain-killing drugs.
Painless.
Painless.
A painless death.
The train is a quick and painless way to travel. The interview was relatively painless.
Painstaking.
Painstaking.
The work had been done with painstaking attention to detail.
Chris described in painstaking detail what had happened. The old painting was painstakingly restored. The old painting was painstakingly restored.
Paint.
Paint.
A can of blue paint.
Wet paint.
The whole house could do with a fresh coat of paint.
All this room needs is a lick of paint.
Acrylic and oil paints.
The ceiling needs painting.
Brightly painted houses.
We painted the door blue.
Paint the walls in a contrasting colour.
The living room was painted in pastel shades of pink and blue.
A white cross was painted on the door.
Turner is famous for painting landscapes.
He paints mainly in acrylics. The children's faces were painted to look like animals.
She'd painted her toenails with red nail polish.
She's often been painted as a tough businesswoman.
Dickens painted a grim picture of Victorian life. Dickens painted a grim picture of Victorian life.
The article painted him in a bad light.
The name of the firm had been partially painted out.
Much of the original decoration was painted over.
Paintball.
Paintball.
Paintbox.
Paintbox.
Paintbrush.
Paintbrush.
Painter.
Painter.
Jerry's ambition was to become a portrait painter.
Painterly.
Painterly.
Painterly images.
Painting.
Painting.
A collection of valuable paintings.
There was a large painting of his father on the wall.
Can you help me hang this painting? Degas' style of painting. The Cubist school of painting.
Paint job.
Paint job.
Old cars that are given a quick paint job before being sold. Old cars that are given a quick paint job before being sold.
Paint stripper.
Paint stripper.
Paintwork.
Paintwork.
She noticed the peeling paintwork.
Pair.
Pair.
2 pairs of jeans.
A pair of black tights. A new pair of sandals.
She felt as if every pair of eyes in the room was on her.
Earrings, £5 a pair.
A pair of skis.
We have 5 pairs of free tickets to give away.
We worked in pairs for the role-play exercise.
The leaves of the tree are arranged in pairs.
The pair are looking for sponsorship from local businesses.
A pair of dancers. Oh, get out, the pair of you.
A pair of doves.
Ding pair. Ding pair.
Having an extra pair of hands during busy periods can take the pressure off. Having an extra pair of hands during busy periods can take the pressure off.
Colleagues regard him as a safe pair of hands. We were each paired with the newcomer to help with training.
All the others were pairing off and I was left on my own.
My aunt was forever pairing me off with unsuitable men.
We learned later that he and Tanya had paired up.
They first paired up in the screen adaptation of Grease. They first paired up in the screen adaptation of Grease.
They have paired up writers and artists and commissioned linked works.
Paisley.
Paisley.
A paisley shawl.
Pyjamas.
Pajamas.
Pak choi.
Pak choi. Paki. Paki.
Pakistani.
Pakistani.
A 20-year-old Pakistani.
Pal.
Pal.
We've been pals since we were at school.
An old pal.
Look, pal, I don't want you hanging around.
It was nice having someone to pal around with.
She palled up with Neil while travelling round Europe.
Palace. Palace. A spokesman for the palace confirmed that Her Majesty would be visiting South Africa next year. After last night's defeat, Palace look likely to take bottom place in the league. After last night's defeat, Palace look likely to take bottom place in the league.
Buckingham Palace.
The palace has announced that the Duke and Duchess are to separate.
The splendid palaces of Florence.
Palace Revolution. Palace Revolution.
He deposed his father in a palace coup.
Paladin.
Paladin.
Paleo.
Paleo.
Paleolithic.
Paleolithic.
Paleontology.
Paleontology.
Paleozoic.
Paleozoic.
Palatable.
Palatable.
A very palatable wine.
They changed the wording of the advertisement to make it more palatable to women.
The truth, as always, is slightly less palatable.
Palate.
It tasted very strange, at least to my untrained palate.
A collection of dishes to tempt your palate.
Palatial.
Palatial.
A palatial country residence.
Palatinate. Palatinate.
Palaver.
Palaver.
We could have done without all this palaver.
What a palaver over nothing. Pale.
Pale.
He looked very pale and drawn.
He suddenly went pale. Sharon went deathly pale and looked as if she might faint.
An elderly, pale-faced woman. Pale blue curtains.
The pale grey dawn.
The cheese is a pale imitation of real Parmesan.
Kent's face paled when he saw that Rob had a knife.
The amounts of money involved pale into insignificance when compared with the sum spent each year on research. The amounts of money involved pale into insignificance when compared with the sum spent each year on research.
Today's economic problems pale in comparison with those of the 1930s. Today's economic problems pale in comparison with those of the 1930s.
His opinions are entirely beyond the pale.
Pale ale. Pale ale.
Paleo.
Paleo.
Paleolithic.
Paleolithic.
A Paleolithic axe.
Paleontology. Paleontology.
Palate.
Palate.
Palette knife. Palimony.
Palimony.
Palimpsest.
Palimpsest.
Palindrome.
Palindrome.
Paling.
Paling.
A new paling had been erected around the yard. Iron palings.
Palisade.
Palisade.
Paul.
Paul.
Gradually, the novelty of city life began to pall. A pall of thick grey smoke hung over the buildings. The area is enveloped in a pall of neglect.
Palindrome.
Paul.
The Palladium.
Palladium.
Pallbearer.
Pallbearer.
Pallet.
Pallet.
Wooden pallets.
Palliate.
Palliate.
Chosen carefully, the oils may not only palliate but also cure the condition.
Palliative.
Palliative.
Short-term economic palliatives.
Palliative care.
Pallid.
Pallid.
Pallid cheeks.
A pallid performance.
Pallor.
Pallor.
A sleepless night had added to her pallor.
Pally.
Pally.
She's pally with Stephen.
Palm.
Palm.
She looked at the coins in her palm.
He held the pebble in the palm of his hand.
Coconut palms.
He tried to palm off his old books onto me.
Dealers sometimes palm off fakes as genuine works of art.
Palm corder.
Palm quarter.
Palmist.
Palmist.
Palmistry.
Palmistry.
Palm oil.
Palm oil.
Palm phone. Palm phone.
Palm reader.
Palm reader.
Palm-sized.
Palm-sized.
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday.
Palm top.
Palm top.
Palm tree.
Palm tree.
Palomino.
Palomino.
Palpable.
Palpable.
There was a palpable sense of relief among the crowd.
What he said is palpable nonsense. This was palpably untrue. This was palpably untrue.
Palpate.
Palpate.
Palpitate.
Palpitate.
Palpitations.
Palpitations.
Palsy.
Palsy.
Palsy-walsy.
Palsy-walsy.
Paltry.
Paltry.
Paltry sum of money.
He received only a paltry £25 a day.
Paltry issues.
Pampas. Pampas grass.
Pampas grass.
Pamper.
Pamper.
She spent her childhood as the pampered daughter of a wealthy family.
Pamper yourself with a stay in one of our luxury hotels.
Pamphlet.
Pamphlet.
A political pamphlet.
Pamphleteer.
Pamphleteer.
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan.
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 A frying pan. Pots and pans.
Cook the pasta in a large pan of boiling water.
A cake pan.
The business is rapidly going down the pan.
The movie was panned by the critics.
The camera pans slowly across the crowd.
Panning for gold in Alaska.
We'll have to see how things pan out.
Pan.
Pan.
Pan-African unity.
Panacea.
Panacea.
There is no panacea for the country's economic problems.
Panache.
Panache.
They played and sang with great panache.
Panama hat.
Panama hat.
Pancake.
Pancake.
Pancake day.
Pancake day.
Pancreas.
Pancreas.
Panda.
Panda.
Panda car.
Panda car.
Pandemic.
Pandemic.
The AIDS pandemic.
Pandemonium.
Pandemonium.
There was complete pandemonium in the kitchen. There was complete pandemonium in the kitchen.
When the verdict was read, pandemonium broke out in the courtroom.
Pander.
Pander.
Some newspapers feel they have to pander to the prejudices of their readers. Some newspapers feel they have to pander to the prejudices of their readers.
Highly trained staff will pander to your every whim. Highly trained staff will pander to your every whim.
Pandora's box.
Pandora's box.
The report could open up a Pandora's box of claims from similar cases.
P&P. P&P.
Please send 80p to cover postage and packing.
Pane.
Pane.
A window pane.
A pane of glass.
Panegyric.
Panegyric.
Panel.
Panel.
A panel of experts has looked at the proposal.
There will be at least 3 senior doctors on the panel. We have 2 senior politicians on our panel tonight. The panel spent 14 hours going over the evidence.
A stained glass panel.
There were a few panels missing from the fence.
One of the door panels was badly damaged and had to be replaced.
A skirt made in 6 panels.
Panelled.
Panelled.
The walls were panelled with oak.
Panelling.
Panelling.
Panelist.
Panelist.
Panel pin.
Panel pin.
Panel show.
Panel show.
Panel truck.
Panel truck.
Pang.
Pang.
She felt a sudden pang of guilt. Hunger pangs.
Panhandle.
Panhandle.
Homeless people panhandling in the subway. The Texas Panhandle. Homeless people panhandling in the subway.
Panic.
Panic.
The children fled in panic.
A feeling of sheer panic.
She got into a panic when she couldn't find the tickets. The whole nation is in a state of panic following the attacks.
She suffers from terrible panic attacks.
The recent panic over the safety of baby milk.
A wave of panic selling in Hong Kong.
The usual last-minute panic just before the deadline.
It was panic stations here on Friday.
He started to panic when he saw the gun. He started to panic when he saw the gun.
Don't panic. We'll soon get you out of there.
The protests became more violent and many people were panicked into leaving the country.
Panic button.
Panic button.
Panicky.
Panicky.
By 10 o'clock, she was starting to get a bit panicky.
Panic-stricken.
Panic-stricken.
Lucy suddenly looked panic-stricken.
Pannier.
Pannier.
Panoply.
Panoply.
A glorious panoply of colours.
A panoply of men in grey suits.
Panorama.
Panorama.
The tower offers a panorama of the city. A breathtaking panorama of mountains.
A panorama of life in England 400 years ago.
A panoramic view of the valley.
Panpipes.
Panpipes.
Pansy.
Pansy.